fine. Just pay to the colony. It's fine. I mean, how can it not sanction colonialism? They themselves had entered the promised land as colonizers. So I rest my case.
Thank you. I think all of this culminates into a space where you exist in a political party, and a lot of people, not only myself, were shocked when you announced your return to active politics. I've always insisted that a free mind like yourself would struggle to conform to, political things, especially in career politics, because career politics are much more different than an activist, yes, who fights for a specific cause. They used to call the ANC the broad church, so you are in a environment where it's called a broad church in MK. You are going to be leading with people who are bishops, and they are going to bring their titles in MK, and so as other political parties. And when such happens, and I've seen when maybe there are big gatherings, all religious denominations would want to give their weight and stuff. When it comes to either policy and when it's time to govern, do you not think you are going to find challenges where organized religion would want to perpetuate what is happening currently? Because, I mean, the reason people follow MK, it's the way they are going to transform society with traditional leadership, with spiritual leadership. I've done podcasts from MK women who go and pray, who went to the mountain, who went badira ditlhabelo ko godimo ba shisimpepo and stuff. So I find it very revolutionary, because other political parties would ordinarily shy away from such. So contradiction or possible clashes when those who are bishops within would want the status quo to remain. I take it back to you.
Wow, I like that question actually. You listened to the podcast, so I think you saw. There are two reasons why I joined MK. One is that never did I think in my lifetime I will see the ANC go into an alliance with the DA. Well, I've always known they are funded from the same coffers. I think the writing is on the wall. But to actually just outright proclaim it was a shock to my system. But also to just state I shall not go into an alliance with MK. Some of those are your former comrades. You hate MK people less than you hate descendants of colonialists and descendants of apartheid upholders. That's a shock. But I think it was more a shock to me because I was unfortunate on two fronts. The day the GNU was announced, I was in Zambia, running training for Zambian MPs with an organization called Tax Justice Network Africa, just talking about how to strengthen tax laws in Zambia so they maximize on taxing corporates, because the whole African state still makes more money out of pay-as-you-earn, by the way, than from corporate tax. If people can wake up tomorrow understanding how corporate does not pay tax, I think we'll have a revolution. I don't think people will agree to be taxed. That's podcast for another day. Now, I was in Zambia. They walked into that room. I mean, we are running the training, so obviously you are in communication, you know. You arrive first. When they come in, we are there. They ate me for breakfast. I've never been so attacked. Remember that Zambia was the HQ of the ANC. Remember that Zambia liberated the whole of Southern Africa technically, because they housed us, they housed Frelimo, they housed SWAPO, they housed the two liberation movements of Zimbabwe. Ian Smith of Rhodesia then used to go in by helicopters and bomb Zambia because they housed both Joshua Nkomo and Mugabe liberation movements. The Zambians were just like, is this what we died for? If you guys knew you were going to go into an alliance with the National Party, today, Democratic Alliance, why didn't you just do it in the 80s and save the bloodshed? You guys had mass funerals. Imagine those people would be alive. You know, they accosted me so much. I had no answers. But I knew that they are accosting the wrong person because I've never been a member of the ANC inside South Africa. I was unlucky because we were flying that Sunday to Tanzania, Arusha, to a meeting on debt, that is state debt. And over 17 or 18 countries, African countries, that Monday I suffered the same thing from different African countries. That made me think, actually, that if people outside South Africa are seeing the desperateness at which our country is at, and I'm not seeing it, which glasses am I using to look at our politics right now? That made me think. That's one. Another part of this is the same thing I joined the EFF for, the restoration of African dignity. From everything we've discussed thus far, I think you can conclude and walk away and say there's no dignity in being an African currently. And it's not just in South Africa, by the way. It's in the whole of Africa and in the diaspora too. Our situation as Africans is the same wherever you find us. The less policed places, the more arrested people, more criminal-prone areas, unemployment, no generational wealth, people don't finish school, highly religious, but it doesn't translate to anything at the table, loss of culture, loss of language, loss of history. So our lot is the same. So for me, pillar number one of MK, and which is what they've asked me to run with, restoration of African dignity, is truly what took me there. I did a write-up on it. And I think my whole existence, talking about African spirituality and pre-colonial African history, truly is about the dignity of Africans. Because I think if you pull, it happened during apartheid. It was a running joke, but a sad joke, that if you walked into an African household with a black doll in the 70s, a child would actually take that doll and throw it away because they'd never even seen a black doll. Dolls were white. So the whole grooming and orientation was into whiteness. Sadly, that's where we've gone back to currently. You think an African child, a Mamelodi, at 10, if you ask them, do you want to stay here or do you want to go to America? Because even in America, the little we know is Hollywood. What would they tell you? I want to go. At 10, they'll tell you, I want to go to America. You tell them, do you want to go to Ghana? Ghana is in Africa. It's the capital of Ghana. Or do you want to go to London? They'll tell you, I want to go to London. But here's another thing. If you ask a 30-year-old African today, do you want to go to Moscow, Russia? Or do you want to go to Washington, America? What will they say? Washington, America. Because even what we know about the world is what has been permitted for us to know about the world. We hate Russians where we've never even met a Russian in our lives. But we hate them with a passion because that's the Western orientation. We are Westernized. And there's a war between Russia and the West. And we have chosen the Western side because we are Westernized people. So, yeah. For me, those are the two reasons, truly, I'm in MK. Will there be antagonisms? I think it doesn't matter where I go currently, there'll be antagonisms. Can I tell you? There'll be antagonisms even if I had to join a political party set up by Izangoma Nyanga. Because remember, some of these Izangoma Nyanga are themselves Christians. You know that? Yeah. Abantu nabaphuma entwaseni qale kungena isonto bafaka isambatho. Kungena isonto ugobela abe umfundisi. Then iphele isambatho ba change bafake ezezangoma then kube ugobela. I don't subscribe to that. Because I don't know if in Nubia in 11,000 BCE, there was Jesus in anything that was done for Africans. I mean, we have a date and time when Jesus came. And we also know that Jesus did not come to embrace African culture. So I don't know how those two things can be reconciled. Unless we are turning a blind eye to something in order to reconcile both. So no, for me, antagonisms would happen. I always argue that either mad and society is normal, or society is normal and I'm mad. I don't know, the verdict is out. I don't know which one is which. But there are very few people who think like me, or would think like some of the people you've interviewed. I think you can name them for me when I finish talking. There are very few people who are strictly in African spirituality and will not mince. I stand up and walk now when they start praying. I don't have time for that. I have been deceived enough in my lifetime. I've given Christianity enough chance against my will. Remember, I was raised Catholic. It means I was baptized as a baby. I couldn't even say my name. I was already baptized. The religion was chosen for me. So, no, I don't compromise, and people can call me what they want to call me after this podcast, but I don't compromise, just like I don't for the national anthem. Once you guys start going a blow fun, I just stand up and I do whatever I want to do. My anthem has ended. Because I don't understand why an anthem that we sang for so many years, which is actually not even South African only, while it was started by Enoch Sontonga, it was embraced by other African countries. Still the same for Tanzania. Well, Mugabe changed it in Zimbabwe, but it's still the same for other African countries. I don't understand why it had to be changed. If whiteness came here to colonize, and they are willing to be part of us as Africans, why didn't they leave this anthem alone? There's nothing demonic about it. As a matter of fact, it is Christian because it says, Woza Moyo Ingcwele. I just choose to make that Moyo Ingcwele an ancestral Moyo Ingcwele. But if you are Christian, you can choose to make it what it is. So that anthem is very incorporative. Why did it have to change? They are a minority. They were 24% in 94. They still wanted both of their languages in that anthem. That's arrogance. They wanted English and Afrikaans in that anthem. That's racism, that's arrogance, that's ingratitude, actually. When there are 9 African languages and there are only 2 in that anthem, so we had to compromise to make them comfortable. So no, I sit when you start going 80 blow. I sit down and I go on my phone so that you don't think I'm sitting because I'm sick. So the antagonism is there. So if MK becomes a ruling party, and that anthem is adopted, I'll sit down even when I'm in parliament when that part comes. Because I sit anyway. So the antagonism, yes, within MK, it will happen, but not because it's MK. It would be an antagonism that happens anywhere else because, as I say, there are very few people who've turned their back totally. Listen, you can't pay me to be a Christian. I dare you. You can't pay me. I'm not a millionaire, but I will not even accept millions to go back to Christianity. I will not. I'm done. I don't vomit and then go back and eat my vomit. I'm done. I've studied its origins. I've studied all the councils from the first one in Acts. I think it's Acts 16 that was called between Paul and Peter. And those councils, remember, migrated into Vatican something, Vatican this number, Vatican this number. It didn't change. The Catholic Church is in charge of Christianity. That's why the Pope decides when is Easter each year. Christmas is a Catholic celebration. That's become a Christian celebration. So, no, you can't pay me to be a Christian. Shebatung, you cannot. I'm done. And I'm dead sure that I'm done.
So one of the most difficult things as a podcaster is ending a podcast. And I know I will not, I will sit at home, but maybe I could have squeezed this one. I mean, anyone watching, you could actually deduce without being a scientist that, number one, we were persecuted into being Christians. It was the barrel of a gun.
Of course.
It was through slavery and conquest.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. It was also through denial of services. They had what they called the civilized, and then they had what they called amaqaba, the uncivilized, the heathens, the ones who had not converted.
Yes.
And when the colonial government was in place, they would give social services and public services to the civilized, that's the converted, and deny amaqaba. When they wanted to punish or enslave or rape or anything, they would come to amaqaba. So truly, I don't care what Christians and Muslims say today. It was through chiseling that we accepted religion. And now it's maintained